yeah, you can move the prospect, you can persuade them to read through the whole website and sign up. But the problem is if you didn't think from the start at their whole entire user journey and experience, and when they sign up, you're not really matching their expectations or their motivations, and you're not prioritizing the right features, for example, in the dashboard, that's where cognitive dissonance comes into play.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SaaS SEO Show. I'm your host, George Cassiotis, and today I'm very happy to be joined by Christopher Silvestri. Christopher, or Chris, is a SaaS and e-commerce conversion copywriter. He was a former UX lead at the usability testing startup Conversion Crimes and previously at the conversion design agency Zida Labs. Chris has been working as a copywriter and CRO specialist for online brands since 2016. Christopher, welcome to the show.
Hey, Georgios, thank you for having me.
So before we get started, I would like to, as I do with every guest that we have here at the show, ask a couple of things about you. To begin with, I guess that it would be very nice if you could share with us a few things about your background and specifically what has brought you to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I actually started what I do now back in 2015 on the side, as most people do. And like what I call my old life was basically, I was a software engineer in a totally different field. It was industrial automation. So I don't know if you've ever seen those robots that assemble plastic components in like factories. So I was basically programming those. And I did that for 10 years, but I was also playing music with my band. And one of the things that kind of made me change my mind and field was that I wanted to tour and play music a bit more. And my job was the opposite of being flexible. They were sending me all over the world for installations and stuff. So what I decided doing was starting to learn online marketing and try different business models for a couple of years on the side, so mostly weekends, evenings. And at some point I stumbled on copywriting, and I actually loved the psychology that's behind it and understanding people. And I did that for 2 years, I think, always on the side, like doing my first, getting my first couple of clients. I worked on Upwork first at the beginning. And then, yeah, basically in 2017, I decided to jump ship and started to do that full time. I actually stumbled on like the agency that I used to work with at a conference, which was pretty like a random event, serendipitous event, because I won the tickets for the conference by applying to like a survey. So I was one of the two guys who won the tickets out of, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people. So I met a founder at the agency. We worked together for 2 years, and then she decided to kind of create her vision, which was this usability testing startup, which is now is called Conversion Crimes. So we transitioned from agency to usability testing, and that's where I learned all the UX design skills that I have now. And last year, I decided to move on from that to go back on my own. And now I'm basically trying to combine the UX skills that I got in the last couple of years with the conversion copywriting skills. And that's where Conversion Alchemy was born, basically.
It sounds like a long journey. So
yeah.
nowadays you run Conversion Alchemy. Can you please tell us a couple of things about the agency? What kind of services do you provide, and who gets the most value out of the service?
Yeah. So Conversion Alchemy, it's a conversion copywriting agency with a twist, I say. So I don't know if you're familiar. There's an author that wrote Still Like an Artist. It's called Austin Kleon, and wrote a couple of books. And his philosophy, like his way of saying what he does, is he calls himself a writer who draws. And lately you also see some people who can actually, like designers who can code. So what I do is I would say that I'm a copywriter who designs. I don't design website mockups or apps. What I design, it's more customer experiences and user journeys. And yeah, everything starts obviously with the research, which I always tell my clients is 60-70% of the work, and they are always surprised or shocked by that. And because yeah, you call yourself a copywriter, but actually the research is most of the work. And that's why I also decided to call it conversion alchemy. It's not only copywriting. After the research, then we turned all the findings into copy, and then I lay out all the copy in wireframes, which are website layouts, not branded. So no, I don't select the fonts, I don't pick the colors. That's all. That's everything that a designer will do after. But it gives a great idea of how the copy should flow, how it should be placed on the website. So a designer just need to pick that and implement it on the website. So this is pretty much a high level process of what I do. And yeah, I work mostly with 6-7 figure e-commerce or SaaS clients. And most of my clients are companies that they have product market fit. So they're profitable, but they somehow they got stuck because they don't know much about their customers. So they don't know how to position themselves to stay competitive. And that's when I come in and kind of give them the edge that they need to move past that block.
Okay, that all sounds very interesting, and I guess that it makes sense that you have the word alchemy in there, because it sounds like there is science behind your methodology and your approach as well. It's not so easy as most people may think. My first question is: you have obviously extensive experience working with SaaS companies, and I would like to hear your thoughts on what are some of the most common mistakes that you see SaaS companies make, specifically when it comes to their website copy and UX design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so actually one mistake that comes to mind now, because I'm working with a client right now on it, it's some of these clients tackle conversion optimization projects the wrong way. And what I mean by that is that they think they have to redesign the website, maybe because they see the conversion are low or something, and they see the competitors are moving forward. So what they do is, let's contact a branding design agency, right? Because that's the thing that we have to do. But the thing is, a branding agency, yeah, can be good on the design aspect, to give you like an identity, especially if you have to shift in the market. But the problem is that if you design the website with only branding in mind and not studying your customers and understanding how conversions work, then all that comes after it's kind of like in the wrong place, in the wrong sequence. So what I always recommend my clients is first to do all the research and craft the copy. Obviously, sometimes you just need like a quick project or refresher, so you don't have to follow the exact sequence, and you can do smaller, quicker projects. But usually copy and research should always come first before the design and the branding. So, and right now what I'm doing with this client is they just launched the new website, so everything is designed. And what we're doing to avoid redo everything, which would be a pain, we're basically researching, and I'm basically spotting where the gaps are in the research, in their positioning, and we'll try to maintain as much as possible the layout of the current website. And I'm going to just fill in the gaps with the improved copy or slight changes in the layout, but that's not ideal. So that's not something that I recommend my clients. So this is one thing, the design project process approached the wrong way. Another thing, it's thinking about customer personas the wrong way. So a lot of companies think about their customers in terms of demographics, location, gender, occupation, interests, all this stuff. The way that I see personas is more of thinking about them in terms of their mindset when they get to the website and the context that's behind it. Those are two super important thing that affect everything that comes after the conversions, because you basically have to think of your customers in terms of what are they thinking when they get to the website. What did they see before they get to the website? What are they expecting to see? And it's all in their minds, right? So the only way to figure that out is to ask them to do the research and to create these kind of like snapshots of the whole customer journey. So from the moment they find you to the moment they are about to convert or they sign up for a trial, to the moment they try the product and then convert to the paid one, and after to the moment they refer you. So mapping all that out. Yeah.
Can you share an example of, because this sounds very interesting to me. Can you share please an example of mindset?
Yeah.
What could be the mindset of someone who is going to try, for example, let's say a presentation software?
Yeah. So,
or, you know, if you have an example in your mind, I would like to hear that.
Actually, yes. As far as mindset, what I mean by that is usually, I think in terms of various factors. So there's their stage of awareness. So how much do they know about the product, and how much do we need to tell them? Then there's also their level of sophistication. So how are they familiar with similar products? Do they know how they work? Do they need more explanation? Then the other factor is what types of decision makers are they? Are they more of like the emotional spectrum? And these are all like spectrums, so there's gradients. Are they more on the emotional side? So do they need to see more images of people on the website, or they are mostly logical, so they need a lot of explanation and detail? And also, how do they consume information? So are they slow in their decision making? Are they more like fast? So and what do we need to tell them in order to match all those factors? Do they decide right away when they see the header, the first call to action at the top of the page, or do we need to kind of bring them down before they actually click, because otherwise their click kind of creates the wrong expectations? So all those factors contribute to their like the mindset and the snapshot that we want to understand when people get to the website.
All this sounds very interesting to me, and the problem that I have with you know, customer avatars, personas, you can call them however you like, is the fact that it's like it's a task that needs to be done, you know, and once we do it, okay, we can forget about the customer avatars or personas that we have created, and we can revisit them when we will hire an agency in a couple of years and they will ask us for our customer avatars, and we, you know, the reply will be, oh yeah, we did that a couple of years ago, let me you know, take it with the team and get back to you. I think that's a bit problematic, and I think that your approach makes more sense as I hear that. But I would like to dive a bit deeper into that and, you know, understand how can we retrieve this kind of information. Is it that we have to do customer interviews? Is it that we have to run a customer survey? Is it that, you know, it should be a combination of these things, something different? What's your approach here?
Yeah. So what you mentioned, customer interviews are probably the most helpful because they give you a lot of like very vivid insights and language and voice of customer data. So I would definitely push for those. Sometimes it's difficult, but that's also depend on how much your customers value your product. That's also one thing that I'm trying to work with clients. So they don't understand that if their customers don't really value the product, they are not really incentivized either to give them information. So that's also where my work comes in. I help them communicate their value better, so their customers are more excited to share with them. So customer interviews, definitely. Customer surveys, I also run them. The only problem with a lot of customer surveys that I've seen, especially some surveys that are ran, I mean, it's not a problem actually, it's just that they focus on different factors. For example, branding agencies, when they ask questions, they obviously focus more on brand, the identity, about how the brand is perceived, while the surveys that I run obviously need to be focused on the entire journey. So what I try to do is, with the questions that I ask, is to try and map out the entire customer journey. So I ask them questions about the consideration phase. So before even thinking about this product, were they using any other solution, which doesn't even need to be a similar product? Were they doing it in a different way? Then when did they start to actually consider and evaluate different solutions, and which ones were there? Then I try to ask them questions about the evaluation stage. So yeah, what pushed them during their evaluation process to move to my client's product, and obviously from there to the point of conversion and after. So I also asking them how would they recommend the product to a friend, for example, just to get an idea of how they perceive the product, and especially focusing on obstacles. So what were the obstacles in their path, or some anxieties or objections that they had. And you can only do this, especially surveying customers that are not super old customers. So I try to do that with customers that are like 6 months maximum old, so they have a fresh idea of the entire experience in their minds. So yeah, these kinds of surveys are super helpful in combination with the customer interviews. Sometimes you could also you could even survey customers, and at the end of the survey ask them if they want to join a call to go deeper into their responses. That's a good way to convert a survey into an interview. Other things I do to understand these, it's I look a lot at user interaction data. So that can be a software like Hotjar. I go and look at heat maps, which tell you where people click, how people consume the page, where do they scroll, and also user recordings, which I try to watch at least 50 to 100 of user recordings for each client. And you start seeing patterns of how they consume the content, and that tells you where the most important copy should be placed, or how the website should flow, and many other things. So that's user interaction. Another thing, it's website surveys, website polls. So you obviously, it's important to understand your current customers, but it's also important to understand the visitors that get to your website. So people who are not yet customers, and to get an idea about what kind of persona they are, obviously using multiple choices so they don't have to write a ton of stuff. Asking them one good thing that is useful for website survey, and it's surprising how many people reply to those. A lot of my clients say, oh, I tried those, but nobody replies. But if you actually ask the right questions and don't make it hard for them to do it, you can be surprised how many replies you get. And also the important thing is to ask questions that are tailored to the page where you use them. So if you want to know something about the last mile obstacle before signing up, you can just add a poll on the pricing page, for example, asking what might be preventing you from signing up today, right? And you only ask that on the pricing page, and so on. So these are all things that help you map out the customer journey. Other things that I took from a UX design background, it's usability testing. Obviously, I do a lot of that, which can be great, especially at the beginning, to spot big areas for improvement, things that are broken, especially on the technical side, but also on the copy side, if something is confusing or the expectations are not set correctly. The only problem with usability testing is that it's hard to get the exact target audience, especially if you do it remotely. So it would be great to be able to do it in person, but obviously, especially nowadays, it's hard. But yeah, that's another great thing. And there are some good platforms that you can do that quite cheap. So it's all good. Yeah.
I would like to mention something here with regards to customer service. A couple of weeks ago, we started working with a new client, and we are in the process of doing keyword research and audience research, and trying to understand what's obviously what is our target audience, and what are the things that these people may be looking for online when it comes to solutions like our client solution. Our client, a couple of weeks before we start, we get on the engagement, had run a customer survey from paying customers, and I was going through the answers that these customers gave, and it was pure gold. Like they essentially tell you exactly how they use the product, what they were using before this this solution, this product, and in some cases, what really struck me was that there was a question about what kind of solution you used before that. And some of them pointed to a specific software that, quite frankly, I didn't have in mind when we got into the engagement. I was like, do people really use that? I didn't know that solution. I wasn't aware of it. And also, it helped us get a very deep understanding of what the target audience is. And I was like, okay, now we know that we are targeting, in this case, website development agencies. And this is extremely important because it changes our perspective as to how we can approach these people. It's not like just we can approach them just by targeting the keywords that they may be using and the search terms and so on and so forth. We can approach them in many different ways because we know that they are website development agencies, and website development agencies are not looking solely for the solution that we offer. They are looking for many other things. And I was really surprised by the value of such a survey. And it's something that I guess that we will be suggesting to our clients moving forward, because there is true value there. I was really fascinated by it. And I'd like to shift gears a bit. And even though I'm very excited discussing about customer service and running polls and all these things, and we may get back to it, but I would like to focus a bit more on today's topic, which is UX design and copywriting. And I would like to ask your opinion when it comes to the connection between the two, UX design and copywriting, because my feeling is, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but my feeling is that you cannot say that you optimize the one without the other. And I would like to hear your thoughts as to, should it be a combination? Can the one exist without the other? How do you think about that?
Yeah, so the way that I see it, when you write copy, you do it with the customer experience in mind, right? So like the entire journey. So the thing that you can move the prospect, you can persuade them to read through the whole website and sign up. But the problem is, if you didn't think from the start at their whole entire user journey and experience, and when they sign up, you're not really matching their expectations or their motivations, and you're not prioritizing the right features, for example, in the dashboard, that's where cognitive dissonance comes into play, and they actually freak out in some way. And that's one of the reasons maybe that your product has high churn, so you're not able to retain a bunch of customers. So yeah, I think I definitely agree that the user experience and copy should come together. Obviously, there are some nuances, and some of the things that I noticed when I was working at the agency, speaking of like design and copy. One thing that we've seen was that sometimes it's really hard to first write the whole copy and then send it to a designer to implement, because sometimes the copy that you write maybe doesn't really fit the new design. So the way that we used to do it was kind of like in mixed stages. So I used to write the copy in a Google Doc, for example, but I was pre-formatting the copy. So if a designer looked at the page, they kind of intuitively knew the flow and the structure and kind of the sections of the website, how they should have been designed. So we were already on the same page. It wasn't two distinct phases. It was kind of mixed. And then we moved on to, I was finishing the draft and they were already preparing the template for the website. So the two things were moving along sideways. And at the end, we basically met up, caught up at a certain point. And that's where, the copy kind of fit the final form of the website or design. So that's, I think, a good way to work with the designer. Is start writing the copy, but also have the final design and layout in mind. And that's why I do these wireframes, which are not final mockups, but they basically show you, it's like a template, like the layout of the page, so that a designer, when he's looking at them, can already start and set up the layout, the frame, and everything. So yeah, the copy and UX should definitely go along together. I would say though, there's if you already have done like the research part and know your positioning and know how copy should flow, I would definitely think that you could do, and you should be able to do only some UX adjustments or only some copy adjustments. But if you're starting from scratch and haven't done the whole part that comes before, the research and everything, you should definitely start with both in mind together.
Yeah, I must say that I agree here. I would like to discuss a bit usability testing. It's something that you touched on a bit earlier. In my mind, and I guess that in most people's, minds, when they hear the word usability testing, they think of running a poll on a website, a simple poll that asks, whether or not you found this page useful, which I assume is not, what usability testing is all about. And I guess that in most cases, this happens because a marketer wants to kind of justify their subscription to a usability testing tool. But I would like to hear your thought process when working with clients when it comes to usability testing. What could be the objectives, for example, of a landing page with commercial intent for a SaaS company, and how do you structure your process in a way that you manage to meet those objectives?
Yeah, so as far as kind of ways to get useful data, I would say there's not only usability testing. So there's usability testing, which is testing with real users, and you get videos of these users using the website or going through the page and commenting on what they are experiencing. So you get good qualitative data there, but might not be the exact audience. Then there's user interaction, which is Hotjar, and you get videos but without the comments basically, and you see how people interact with the page. And there's surveys, which is what the website poll are. So it's website surveys compared to email surveys. And those are good to ask quick questions, to give more qualitative data that you can use to understand the personas, the use cases, and if there's something that's not clear. So if you combine those three, there's a good chance that you understand what's wrong with the page and how to improve it, and pretty quickly, because with website polls, you could probably get, depending on the traffic, obviously, you could probably get data in 2 weeks. I would later run 1 or 2 weeks, because you need to map out the whole week and the trends of each day. And usability testing, you could always get results in 1 or 2 weeks, depending on the platform that you're using. And yeah, user interaction is kind of the same, depending on the traffic, 2 weeks. So in 2 weeks, you could actually look at the page, collect the data, and understand what needs to be improved. And yeah, as far as writing usability testing or surveys, for example, some of these polls that I see, especially, which is weird, those ran by bigger companies, they might be using these polls in the way that you described, just to justify the platform. But for example, one thing that he asked is like, did you find what you were looking for? That's pretty useless, right? So one thing that I would add, did you find what you were looking for? If not, why? At least you understand the reason, if it's like an open field.
That's a good one.
Another question that I ask at the end, usually, because sometimes I ask 4 or 5 questions, the last one is usually, do you have any questions that haven't been answered on this page? And that tells me if everything's clear, especially in some of the last steps in the funnel. Can be like a pricing page, for example, or an FAQ page. Yeah, it's important with these services to customize them also, as I mentioned before. So maybe you have one for the home page that targets more visitors to understand what kind of personas they are when they land on the page, and then craft one for the checkout and ask something like, I don't know, what's holding you back from signing up today, to understand any obstacles or rejections. Yeah, it's important to keep in mind that compared to email service they send with the website polls, you're asking visitors, right? So it's a different kind of segment, I would say, and both tell you really useful information.
I have a follow-up question here, which is, do you ever happen to run such usability tests in the blog section of a website, or a content piece that may be important for this website from an organic standpoint, or is it just landing pages regardless of the traffic source like PPC or organic?
Yeah, no, it might happen. It happened that I ran them on a blog, especially when the blog was the most trafficked landing page of the website, and I needed to understand how users used to flow on the website, starting from there. So you can ask those questions that I mentioned. You can ask them about information they couldn't find. In that case, I would probably also use heat maps as well a lot to understand where users stop scrolling, what was the drop-off point, and yeah, try to understand them why. And also user testing that can be useful. Obviously, it would be more useful if you had the same target audience, someone interested in the article who could actually comment on it. But yeah, I could definitely see these kinds of surveys applied to blog pages. At the end of the day, as I mentioned, you want to map out the whole journey. So if the journey starts from the blog, let's start there.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Before we start wrapping up, Christopher, I would like to ask you one more question, which is, very often here at the SaaS SEO, so we discuss about the fact that SaaS is moving towards commoditization. Essentially, we see many tools look like each other, from a UX standpoint, from a design standpoint, from a copywriting standpoint, and so on. And I would like to hear your thoughts when it comes to the future of SaaS. What do you think that the future holds for SaaS companies? If you want, you can limit your answer to copy and UX design, but I would really like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting because I'm working with a client now. I'm not saying the name, but basically they are working in a field that's very commoditized. So, and the thing is, they sell this product, a software product, but it's like most of their customers, I would probably say 80% of their customers, are also using competitor products at the same time. And that's mostly because they need more. And this is a product that gives you like quantity data. So a lot of the competitors are using multiple products at the same time. And that's kind of a interesting challenge that I faced with now. But yeah, I agree with you that a lot of these products are being commoditized, and some of them are trying to come up with integration with AI. The other trend that I'm seeing now, it's a lot of micro software products, so very super specific to do one thing very well, which I'm actually into it a bit, as I'm building this Chrome extension basically for doing website teardowns myself, just because I needed it. So it's an interesting experiment. It's an interesting experiment.
We would like to know more about this when it's launched.
Yeah, shameless plug. But yeah, yeah, it's interesting times. And I think also the other thing that we are seeing is that products are getting easier to build and easier to use as well. So going forward, the ease of use is probably going to be a benefit that will be impossible to leverage on the page. And because right now everybody can use any software, they're super easy. The other thing that I'm seeing is that there's these companies that are trying to eat and englobate the entire industry. For example, ClickUp is a company that I really like and I use for my work every day. And they're doing stuff so well that it really makes it hard for you to even consider any other app, because they're doing everything so well. And so it's kind of hard to compete. On the other side of the spectrum, though, there are companies like, I don't know if you're familiar with Balsamiq. It's a wireframing company. They basically help product people wireframe, design the layout of apps or website. And they are like a super small company, but I think they make something around like 8 million annual recurring revenue. And the thing they are doing is they are focusing on longevity rather than growth, which I think is the opposite spectrum, because ClickUp just got 400 million in funding, I think. So you see these two realities, like super small, like kind of smaller companies who are doing things with like an avid following, and these other huge companies who are eating up all the competitors. So that's an interesting thing. I think the commonality there, which is what I'm trying to do for my clients, is that each of these types of companies try to build their own world, their own universe, right? Everything is cohesive from the moment you land on the website to the app, to the emails that you receive. Everything is like a cohesive and memorable experience. So I think that's going to be like an important point to leverage if you build any software app, to create your own world.
That all sounds very, very interesting. Christopher, where people can find more about you and get in touch?
So people can find me on conversionalchemy.net. And if you want to sign up, I've got a newsletter. I'm writing a monthly newsletter, considering a daily one, but not launched yet. It might be interesting. But yeah, conversionalchemy.net/newsletter is the best place. And also on Twitter, you can find me at Silvestri Chris.
That's great. Chris or Christopher, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.